Hi everyone, welcome to Minds of Musicians. I cannot sit on this video any longer. Like, I need to film it, I need to get it off my chest, I need to put it into the world, I need to share it with people. So I think I'm ready to talk about it. I was a music snob. Now, what is a music snob? It's someone who doesn't listen to any pop music. It's below them. It's beneath them, okay? Shame. So when I started gathering my thoughts for this video, I did not expect to uncover the true motives behind this idea that I literally based the foundations of my music taste on. So I'm really excited to get into this video and keep watching to come on a journey with me. Disclaimer, this video is filled with contradictions because my prejudice in itself was a contradiction, so be kind, please. I was very active on Twitter when I became a teenager, so I got my Twitter account when I was 13, and at the time I didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere, so Twitter was like a very nice place for me because it felt like I belonged somewhere, like there was like this little community on there, as strange as it may sound. And the side of Twitter that I fell into was like the alternative, like indie music scene vibe. That's because the band that I was into at the time had like an indie alt rock vibe going. And for some reason, the community at the time nurtured this idea that pop music or any music that wasn't written, performed, and composed by the same person wasn't music. And for some reason, I fell into that trap. When I tell you I believe that this was true, you need to believe me. Like, it was really, really bad. I went through life thinking I had the best music taste, you know, only listening to cool bands. You know, it's almost comical looking back at it, in terms of how I viewed myself. It's kind of embarrassing because I thought I was not like other girls. You know, I thought I was like the coolest kid in town for listening to bands like the 1975 and The Neighborhood. Oh my gosh, well, literally at the same time, I was literally listening to pop. You guys, shame. Yeah, so I was listening to the Vamps and Shawn Mendes right at the same time as this, and I still held this belief. So yes, I was listening to pop music and I was finding true joy in listening to pop music, but for it really saddens me, but I think I kind of didn't view it as music really. Like, I kind of denied any credit to those artists, which is just really something. I do apologize for my past self. Let's just make that clear. I have changed. It's actually so scary how I was so unaware of this major contradiction between my thoughts and my actions. So I guess you could say I was pretty deep in denial. So how did I move past this phase, if you will? Well, let's start at the beginning. So one artist that I've been listening to throughout my entire life is John Mayer. His music has been a highly valued companion throughout my entire life. I want to say like since I was like 12 or something. Needless to say, I look up to this man and I'm just constantly in awe of his art and everything he does. I don't know, he's up there, you know? So this one time I was watching Current Mood and, you know, here is John Mayer, you know, the man at the top of the pyramid, the music listening pyramid for me. And he's talking about Charlie Puth, you know, like a pop singer. So I was like, why is he talking about him? Do you know why he's talking about him? Can he stop? And then he was praising Charlie Puth and I was like, wait a minute. Am I wrong? Bless John Mayer. Moral of the story? Thank you for watching. No, I'm kidding. So seeing John Mayer praise a pop singer, really kind of made me question my perspective. So here I was watching John Mayer praise a pop singer, and I was like, my world was genuinely crashing down. Like, it's really embarrassing saying that, but it's like true. I was truly shocked. Like, I didn't know how to feel. I felt kind of offended, to be honest, if I remember correctly. But it definitely planted the seed that bloomed into the realization that I was wrong. The 1975 also had a really big impact on me. All of their albums have such a distinct sound, but somehow it all still sounds like the 1975, if that makes sense. Like, there's just this distinctive sound that they have. It's really incredible, and they've always experimented a lot, I feel, with their sounds and everything, you know, not sticking to one thing. It allowed me to explore more genres, perhaps, like through their music. So it was someone familiar trying something new, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is good, this is nice. They didn't allow themselves to be bound by their first album. So another artist is Paolo Nutini. When I first started listening to Paolo Nutini, I barely listened to Caustic Love, which is his latest album, released in 2014. Woo! I mainly actually listened to his first album, which is called These Streets. It has like a more acoustic vibe. I would say like singer-songwriter acoustic vibe. And I specifically remember having a strong dislike for Diana and, oh, what was it, Fashion. Oh my gosh, I was so against those two songs. But it turned out to be one of my favorites, actually. Some of my favorite songs by Paolo. After my initial discovery of Paolo Nutini in 2014, I drifted away, you know, discovering some new artists, so on and so forth. But I did circle back in 2018, and this is when I started listening to Caustic Love. So Caustic Love has like a very soul and R&B vibe, and I was really into it, actually. Funnily enough, Diana actually became one of my favorite songs for quite some time, actually. You know, so now I was actively exploring new artists, using familiar artists that I was into, almost like a bridge to other genres, towards this new stuff that I judged so harshly. Around the same time, so 2018, one of my favorite artists at the time released a new album titled Noonday Dream, exploring a more psychedelic folk rather than his usual indie folk sound. So let's take a vote. Who thinks I was into this? You are right, I was not having it. Like, here was an artist that I loved so much, and I really valued his talent as a songwriter and, you know, just as an artist. But I didn't like his new album. It was genuinely difficult to come to terms with. Why didn't I like his album? Because it was so produced and fake. That's what I thought. That's literally thoughts that I had in my mind. Isn't that so sad? If in the chat, please. If in the chat. It really did make me uncomfortable though. Like, why was I discrediting someone's art purely based on something so shallow? Do you know what I mean? So later that same year, I finally discovered Dermot Kennedy. I found a video of him on YouTube, and I was instantly captivated by his storytelling through his lyrics. I was going through the songs he had out, and it was so exciting. He has such a unique style, from my perspective anyways. I feel like his music is so heavily rooted in storytelling, and it was so gripping. And then I remember moments past, it was just so cool. It was so refreshing. It was definitely something that I didn't have in my playlist at the time. I was blown away. I still am. I was also really into the hip-hop vibes that came through in some of his songs, like Young and Free. I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But I just picked up on some, you know, hip-hop vibes. But please correct me if I'm wrong, like, honestly. But it was so fun and so fresh. But see, there was a problem. Dermot Kennedy released a single, Power Over Me. It's very easy to listen to. Some would even say it's mainstream. I legitimately remember thinking, oh no, but I really like this song. But it's just a bit too pop for me. In the sense that I didn't allow myself to acknowledge pop as music. Here I was completely disregarding like a freaking good song and a brilliant artist simply because I thought it sounded too pop. Simply because it sounded too much like a radio song. Like, can someone just slap me over the head, please? Like, honestly, sometimes I just want to fight myself, you know? It did make me question, why am I discrediting this really good artist? I really like him. You know, since John Mayer planted that seed earlier that same year in 2018, it really had me constantly thinking, not like super deeply, but I was progressing slowly. So along with me, you know, having those really stupid thoughts, it was really interesting watching some interviews with Dermot Kennedy talking about his influences. You know, he didn't list just songwriters. He also listed a lot of rap artists as well, which was so interesting because I was like, damn, there's a whole new world out there. You know, I was like, damn, I've never really been into rap. Like, what's that about, you know? Hearing so many artists that I look up to speaking of other artists in such a respectful and positive way almost gave me permission to just think, hey, maybe it is okay for me to listen to other genres. I very slowly warmed up to the idea. I was continuously, you know, having like this inner monologue with myself, analyzing my thoughts, perspectives, and opinions. I was also taking into account other people's perspectives and hard work, but most importantly, art. You know, it wasn't easy facing my flaws, but I think it happened very naturally. For example, with every album the 1975 has released, I feel like they've always experimented a lot, like I said earlier. These artists that I mentioned really made it easier for me to transition into different genres. You know, they encouraged me to pursue other genres. Them experimenting with different genres kind of reassured me that I wasn't going to die if I listened to other music outside of indie music. It definitely acted like a bridge to other music, for sure. It was so beautiful seeing artists raise other artists even though what they were doing was different. So you'd think after all these experiences, many mentioned and some unmentioned, that I'd be a changed person, right? Well, I still had some of that mentality stuck in my head. So how exactly did I overcome this last hurdle? Although I had all these ideas swirling in my head, my mind was still processing the shift of perspective. The prejudice was really deep. For some reason, even John Mayer alone couldn't overthrow my ass, and that's saying something because that man, like I said, top of the pyramid. I spent most of 2019 coming to terms with this revelation that I had in 2018. I was on my way to recovery, but there was still some judgment that needed to be eradicated, for sure. This brings me to Kpop. So I was first introduced to Kpop in 2017. My friend showed me Fire Truck by NCT. Can we guess? Class? Can we guess what my reaction was? Yes, you're so right. Oh my word, I didn't like it. Thank you, everyone. Please keep your hate comments for yourself. No, actually, I'm right there typing them with you. So I didn't like it. After that, my friend didn't really mention K-pop to me that much. She mentioned BTS now and then. But at that time, that was the only knowledge I had really of the K-pop industry. I do remember though that I was almost extra judgmental towards K-pop. You know, without opening a can of worms, you hear so many stories. And I also watched a couple of short documentaries on YouTube once as well. So I was a little opposed towards that side of the music industry. But in reality, you can't really form an opinion on an entire industry based on like an hour's worth of content. You know, that's just not right. It's not fair. So early 2020, my other friend told me she checked out some K-dramas. So I was like, oh, cool. What did you think? She was like, yeah, it's cool. So naturally, I also gave it a shot. And subtitles have never really put me off. I've always watched a lot of subtitle things. So after finishing two K-dramas, I became curious. I realized I didn't really know a lot about South Korea, so I was super into learning more about the country. So late 2020, I went to my friend's house and there was nothing to watch. We couldn't find anything on YouTube, nothing on Netflix. So she decided to show me some K-pop content. And can you guess which group she showed me? You can do this, I believe in you. NCT, people. At this point, I wasn't as opposed to it as I was in the past, which is really good. I was open to feeding my curiosity because also I've been watching these K-dramas and I realized that I didn't really know a lot about the country, and you know, music is so familiar to me. I thought, why not explore the country through music? Saying I was overwhelmed is an understatement. Every single thing about K-pop blew me away. I remember trying to wrap my head around the whole group dynamic. You have the rapper, main vocalist, main dancer, and then like everyone else in between. It was all new. I was completely ignorant about everything in a good way, for the most part. It meant that I was on the brink of gaining so much insight and perspective. I was about to broaden my mind, if you will. So in the past, I really struggled to understand rap. I tried to pick it up during the L word, so March, April 2020. I heard Murder on My Mind in a TikTok, and that same night, no joke, listened to that song 50 times on repeat. So I was dabbling, but I wasn't convinced yet. I mean, I did have a few rap songs in my playlist, but in general, it wasn't a genre that I was super into. I just didn't understand it really. So it was interesting being introduced to it from a different aspect, but I was enjoying the vibe though. I think subconsciously I admitted to myself that I knew nothing about rap, so maybe that contributed to the fact that I eventually approached it without prejudice. So this is where two major factors came into play. One, there was this spur of excitement that washed over me when I realized that I could approach music without any preconceived judgments, and that it was okay if the artist didn't write the songs themselves. And two, the overwhelming wave of content I was about to get wrecked by. This was when I was completely drowned in music, in the best way possible. I was swimming in newness, literally. It was such a unique feeling. It was as if this whole new world had opened. It felt really good, actually. Like, honestly, it's a feeling that I hold on to in the tougher moments of life. You know, I thought to myself, damn, how on earth am I going to make it through all these groups? I started out with consuming group content and music in the beginning. And although I had this amazing breakthrough, suddenly I was faced with another one of my flaws, ignorance. I said I wanted to learn more about South Korea through K-pop, which implies that there was a lack of knowledge about many things surrounding not just the K-pop industry, but also Korean culture. It was a flaw that was quickly identified and improved upon. So a week into listening to K-pop, I had this overwhelming sense of relief and just pure joy while listening to K-pop and just enjoying the music without guilt-tripping myself, or without discrediting any artist's work, or without worrying about people's opinions of me. I also afforded an incredible amount of respect to K-pop artists. It seems like an incredibly saturated industry, and I can't even imagine how difficult it must be to get recognition. It was the best feeling in the world. I felt so free and so inspired as well. I was arguably having the time of my life. Then Spotify randomly decided to play a song called Different by an artist named WOODZ. I was like, this is a nice vibe, let me add it to my library. The next day I checked out the music video and I was really into the whole vibe of this artist. I even thought at one point that it was a group. Don't ask me why, but we found out that it was a solo artist very soon. So, you know, in the beginning of the song, it goes, I need a cha-cha beat, right? So I thought to myself, wow, this man must be an independent artist. Wait, let me tell you why. So I thought that I need a cha-cha beat was like one of those copyright things that those websites that have like those like free sounds that you can use, like Epidemic Sounds or whatever. Like I thought it came like the sound effects used in the song came from like a website like that, and I was like, wow, this song slaps even though he used, you know, sounds from like this website. Oh my gosh. Shame. Needless to say, since then I have grown a lot. Anyway, so I found out that WOODZ was from an entertainment company and all that jazz, and was actually in a group and everything. So we progressed very quickly. And interestingly enough, actually, before listening to K-pop, I never really thought about the production of a song that much. Like, it was something that I thought about, but I never like really cared that much, if that makes sense. And like, I feel like in the K-pop industry, there's so much focus on the production, which I've really enjoyed exploring. So anyways, this song by WOODZ was different, you know, from the group content that I was consuming over the last week. I was really intrigued and super pleasantly surprised. I genuinely remember thinking, oh right, you get solo and indie artists too. You know, since WOODZ is an indie artist. Someone please give me a thumbs up in the comments. So throughout the next couple of months, I checked out a bunch of music. Since there was so much content to explore, I kept making mental notes of what I had to check out. You know, YouTube recommended Tired by Neve, which I obviously vibed with. So I added it to my library and was like, yes, okay, check out more of stuff, look into songwriters more. So that's what I did. I was just taking my time though. I was in no rush. I was just letting the music find me, just clicking on whatever. What really impressed me though was the individuality displayed by these new artists that I found. I finally reached the conclusion that good music is music that is enjoyed. Whether it is just the artist themselves enjoying the song that they created, or whether it's someone resonating with something mentioned in the song. Or it could be someone just dancing to a song in a moment of pure joy and carelessness. That's what a good song is. Anything that makes you feel is a good song. So the point is, I think I'm over this whole snob thing. For the most part. So why was my prejudice so stubborn? Well, I was definitely in denial. But as I was organizing my thoughts for this video, I literally had an epiphany. There were two layers of denial. Layer one. I realized that the reason I made this opinion part of my identity was not because I truly believed that I genuinely thought that only good music was written and performed by the same person, but the actual reason behind this entire struggle with prejudice stemmed from, layer two, seeking validation from others. I was literally listening to pop music throughout all of this. I think I was pretending to be someone I wasn't. To see, you know, to seem different, to seem not like other girls. I literally forced this opinion on myself to the point where I literally made it a part of my identity. It's pretty sad, to be honest. You might be thinking, what does K-pop and all these other artists have to do with me seeking validation from other people. Are you telling me this whole video is for nothing? See, this spur of self-growth is directly linked to K-pop. It showed me that all I had to do was listen. Listen without any preconceived notions. This might sound a little ridiculous, but listening to music has pretty much been my only hobby throughout my entire life. So music goes hand in hand in my daily life. The only reason I am able to sit here and tell you about my deep denial is because of those stories and experiences that I had. Without those little prompts for thought, I would still probably be seeking validation from others. Not just validation for my music taste, but also in my personal life. I have to admit, I was stupid before. I formed a negative opinion of people listening to K-pop. I just hate that fact about myself so much. But I want to try and be transparent. So when I started exploring the world of K-pop, I was very cautious about sharing my thoughts about all this new, really good music that I was enjoying so much. You know, music that was resonating with me on so many levels. Artists who were inspiring me in so many ways to work harder. All because I didn't want people to judge me as harshly as I judged them. The irony, honestly. Although I've overcome the need to be validated by others regarding my personality or music taste, I'm still struggling with this mentality that I forced myself into. I'm not completely out of it yet. I'd like to be, but unfortunately I'm dealing with something that went much deeper than I realized. It sucks, but it's just about catching myself out every time and correcting my mind. Do you know, it happened just the other day while I was actually preparing the script for this video. I think it's important to keep in mind that I nurtured this idea for a very long time, so I just need to be patient. So there we go, we are at the end of this video. It's really been such an amazing journey, discovering new music every single week that I connect to on like a deeper level. I deprived myself of so much joy and happiness, but most importantly, I deprived artists of recognition just because their music wasn't my vibe. But it's okay, because here I am making this video. I no longer put artists in boxes. I don't care about genres anymore. I don't judge anymore. I just feel. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's literally just as simple as that. It's made such a huge difference in how I experience music. And lastly, I recognize that all music has value, and that's major. I hope this video was interesting and insightful. If you have any questions or would like me to expand on anything I've spoken about in this video, please feel free to mention in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!